Launch control active. That has to be the quietest motors I've ever heard of anything. It's fascinatingly quiet. So coming into the corner, yeah, you can throttle steer it, hell yes. It's a big girl, but look at this. Coming out. But let's do a brake test really quick. So we'll do, I don't know, 60 miles an hour, 100 kilometers an hour, roughly, full brakes. Let's do it. Oh. You can tell there's a lot of deflection at stop because the whole car moved a lot there when we came to a stop. Hazards came on because of European tuning, but the brake pedal is amazing. This video is brought to you by Nokian Tires, a leader in safety and sustainability. Maximize performance and efficiency with their made in USA all-season tires and their dedicated Hakkapeliitta EV winter line from the inventor of the winter tire. Learn more at nokiantire.com/EV. This video is also brought to you by Magna, forward for all. Hello and welcome to another Out of Spec Reviews video. You join me in beautiful Portugal with the BMW i7. Now, we've driven the i7 many times on this channel, but this isn't just any i7. This is what's called the M70, the top version of the 7 Series. You guys know 7 Series supports both combustion and electric, and what's pretty cool what BMW decided to do was to make the top version fully electric. So that's what we're going to be experiencing today. Since it has an M in the name, it should be sportier than the ones that we have driven in the past. Should be a lot faster. I'll walk you through all the specs, of course. We're going to drive it for the first time. We'll talk about the charging performance. We'll nerd out about the driving differences between the standard car and the upgraded M70. I'll let you know my opinions as to whether or not, if you're in the market, you should spend the extra money to go up to this one. And ultimately, we're just at the coastline in Portugal. Let me show you behind me here. By the way, this is the Duracell spec i7 over this way. This one gives a little bit extra range when you paint it the same color as the Duracell battery pack. I hope some of you get sarcasm on YouTube, and just beautiful views in the Portugal coast. So absolutely living the dream here. We have the new i7 M70. Let's go send it around some perfect roads and see if it deserves the M badge. Super unfortunate how much trash there is, by the way, here on the coastline of Portugal. I really hope they work on cleaning some of these things up because the rest of the country has just been absolutely beautiful. I know actually a lot of our viewers, I got some comments, live here in Portugal, and you have an amazing country. It's been so great to experience and see everything, and yeah, just absolutely loving it here. But the trash has been a problem I've seen the last couple days on the coastlines. Anyway, we're here not reviewing Portugal. We're talking about the i7 M70. So what do you need to really know about this car? Well, if you haven't watched our previous content on the i7, you probably should. I've done full hour-long in-depth videos, front-to-back tours, showing you how everything works. But now for the new model year, and also some features coming as a software update, we have more functionality to the car, and here in this particular trim, significantly more power, which honestly, I think the car kind of needed in the electric form. I'll walk you through some of that as well as we drive, some of the driving impressions here. The car we're looking at is in frozen tanzanite blue, an absolutely stunning color. And really, you know, I own one of these cars with this satin finish paint. I think it's amazing. Yeah, it's a bit of a pain to take care of, but almost worth it because they're just so gorgeous, and they seem to be lasting and wearing pretty well for long-term usage as well, which is pretty awesome. So you're familiar with this 7 Series. They start at, you know, just over $100,000 in the US for the 60 trim. It's all-wheel drive. It's got 101.7 kilowatt hours usable, 106 gross, something like this. So a small buffer. And well, that particular car was very good, but it wasn't particularly fast. Well, what they've done now is they've dumped in 650 horsepower into a 7 Series. Now, when you say it like that, it just sounds amazingly incredible. 650 horsepower in a 7, wow. But then I think about, okay, I also drive a Model S Plaid as my personal car, and that has 1,020 horsepower and costs $100,000 less than this car. This is about $170,000, and you can buy a Plaid for I don't know, 90 grand, something like this. And that's with no options. You can get 100 different paint colors on this or more with BMW Individual. You can option the theater display. You can go absolutely crazy with this stuff. So I don't know. I haven't played around on the configurator, but I wouldn't be surprised if you can touch $200,000. You can see the automatic front door approaching. I have phone as a key. BMW is actually really starting to understand some of these great Tesla technologies, I would say, and applying it nicely to their cars. So similar to Model X, as you walk up, the door will automatically open. You can see the awesome theater display in the back of this particular one, big sunroof as well. I have the shades closed just to show you in here. This one has this blue tinted leather. I don't think it's actually black, and this tan. It's a BMW Individual interior. Again, fully spec'd, fully customized here with this light wood. Absolutely amazing. And that's where the money is going. So that was the point I was bringing up by bringing the Model S into the conversation so early, which is, yes, if you're buying a car for numbers on paper, if you're buying a car for extreme acceleration, that's not this car. Right off the bat, I'm going to tell you that this car is not going to be the quarter-mile drag stripper. You're not taking this to track days. If you want the ultimate quiet, luxury feeling electric vehicle, truly, maybe other than a Rolls-Royce Spectre, which I've still yet to experience, nothing can top the i7. This is a car I was so excited about when I drove it for the first time. You guys know how big of an i7 fan I was and still am. And now they've just dialed it up a notch. It's got 650 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds, same charging profile, same everything like that. I'll show you the charging port over here on this side, but different suspension tuning, different ESP calibration. You can now go ESP off and slide it around, do all the stupid stuff that an M car should be able to do. And it's important to note that this isn't a full M. It's not the M7. That's not really a thing yet, maybe ever, I don't know. But this is the M Sport, so it's like the M Lite version. It's really the M on the cars that don't deserve the M, but they have it anyway. Okay, it's got some M tech in here. So in Europe, you get 22 kilowatt AC charging. In the US, you get about 11 kilowatt AC charging with a 48 amp onboard charging. You have 195 kilowatt peak, fantastic charging curve in these cars. They really, support pretty fast charging all the way to the high bits of the battery pack as well. And I think that's how people actually use 7 Series a lot. A lot of limo companies, a lot of coach-driven vehicles are DC charged to high state of charge for extreme usage, and this car really does support that pretty well. I think if you're going to own a 7 Series and use it as your personal vehicle, then the M70 trim, this one here, makes a lot more sense to me, because you might want to have a little bit of fun on the way into the office or hit the occasional mountain road. And based off what some of the engineers who worked on this project were telling me, they're like, yeah, we really dialed it up as much as we could without, compromising on comfort. We did everything to make this big thing dance. And I'm like, hell yes, because BMW does have some of the best chassis engineers in the automotive industry. And I'm just so excited to have a go in this particular one. So just to walk you through the full specs front to back on this car, it's a dual induction electric motor system. It has a 6-phase rear motor. It's actually the same motor out of the iX. The i7 60, and there's also a 50, but I don't think we get the 50 in the US, or maybe we're just starting to. But the standard car uses just a 3-phase induction motor in the back. This uses the iX motor, 6-phase. It's actually 20 millimeters wider on the rotor and stator, and so they can push 480 horsepower, something like this, right through that motor, which is awesome. So it's really rear biased. I think only about 200 horsepower or less is on the front axle, which is, a great balance to have almost 500 up there and under 200 up front. This is really great for all-wheel drive winter performance, but it should be really fun and balanced to drive. For the first time on a 7 Series now, you can actually get a sport tire. So we're running 255/40 R21s up front. It's a Pirelli P0 original equipment tire. It seems to have the foam on the inside. It's a BMW tire. Let's take a look up here, or I should say back here at this particular one. So it's 285 in the back. So it's a staggered setup, very common for BMW to do something like this. So more power, bigger tire, so you can really lean on that rear axle going around corners, which I'm looking forward to. It has a full air suspension as well, which could be really interesting from a tuning perspective, because they've completely changed the air dampers. They also have a little hydraulic component inside of the damper just to control it under extreme load. mode, just to give it a little bit of help so it can maintain being comfortable. But as you get compression on, that little hydraulic bit can help dampen some forces as well. So it's really a dual chamber damper, if you will. But using hydraulic rather than just a traditional dual chamber damper, which is pretty neat. It's double wishbone up front, 5-link in the back. All the standard geometry of the car is the same. It's just they've tightened up the bushings, they've tightened up the bearings, they've really tuned this car to be sportier, but still in the context of 7 Series where it needs to be unbelievably comfortable. By the way, some updates for this car coming, really nice stuff as well. Driver assistance gets a huge update. You guys remember I was saying this is one of the best driver assistance systems on the market, and now it gets even better. It's completely hands-free up to 130 kph, so 85 miles an hour, not unchanged from previously. However, you no longer need to like set the car into this mode. It'll automatically go into this mode. Will the automatic door work? The answer is no. I think I've been walking around the car a little bit too much. All right, here we go. Please open. Can you open wider? Maybe I was standing too close. The auto doors still a little bit of a pain point for me, especially if I'm trying to get in quickly. I can pull the door handle and occasionally they just create this resistance on the door. If you change direction like this, I'm always pushing against the motor in there and it's just fairly unpremium. You hear the motor grinding away inside of the door. So I'm not a fan of these auto doors. When they decide they want to do something and I want to do something different, it makes it very difficult to actually get the door opened or closed. Yeah, I was just explaining a little bit on the driver assistance. So now it will just go hands-free mode automatically, but it will also do unconfirmed lane changes with the turn signal. So as you're coming down the road and you want to go for a pass, rather than it before you have to hit the turn signal to do a lane change and then pull you back into the right, now it's really interesting. You just glance at the mirror. So if it wants to go to the right, you're driving, you just look at the right mirror, check nothing's there. After about 1 second, boom, lane change. I was also talking a lot with the ADAS engineers, talking about Tesla's full self-driving, talking about BMW's system and good and bad things for both, really. And they were extremely open with me about the progress of their system, their benchmarking, their testing of other technologies out there is pretty fascinating. And we even talked a lot about the tuning differences of this driver assistance system in Europe and in the US. And one thing that we've noticed is that in the US, this car has really fast lane changes. You can see I walked away and the auto door closed there. So this car's really fast lane changes in the US, where in Europe they're a little bit slower and there's actually a legal requirement where they have to run the blinker for a certain amount of time before initiating a lane change. So they're like, we really wish we could get the US lane changes here. And I was talking to them about our Hogback driver assistance challenge where we benchmark all the ADAS systems, and they were also saying, okay, maybe they're going to try and adapt the system to do a little bit better in our market because they have some lateral acceleration limitations in the European version that we don't need in the US, so maybe it can even do better in the Hogback test and the US cars can have better ADAS. So it was really fascinating. That auto door working perfectly here. By the way, before we do that, I have shown you the back seat, but I just want to have a seat back here one more time just to show you how unbelievably comfortable 7 Series is. You get this extremely high pile carpet down here. It's so nice, this carpet. Interesting, you can see no air vent controls here, but that doesn't mean there aren't any. Actually, in the back of 7 Series, you get this display in the door. So all of this is the same as normal 7 Series. You get to control your display. You can, let's see, load up, continue. Will it turn on the TV? Yes, look at this thing, freaking epic. And I can control it. I think it's actually touchscreen as well. So I can come over here to YouTube and it's just amazing. Have this 32-inch, 31-inch display, something like that. Crazy. If I come up here, can we search for out of spec? It says limited touch functionality for YouTube. Ah, okay. See, that's a little bit annoying. Also, one actual kind of complaint about this, as the driver, you can't see out the back at all when this screen is down, and there's no digital rear view mirror like a Chevy Bolt has, so you can't see out the back through here. I think that's kind of a miss. They should have done a digital rear view mirror. And this system is in no way tied to the front system over here. So I wish they would have linked this iDrive system with this. This runs on a, I believe, Amazon operating system. That runs on BMW OS. I heard some rumors maybe they'll tie them together. It only makes sense to tie them together. This is really a first world problem. It's not really a huge deal. So let's fold up the screen. I think I go here to display, and I come here to fold up, and here it goes away into the roof. Very nice. The back seat of 7 Series, so comfortable. You can see these epic headrests with the pillows. It's just amazing back here. So you're giving up nothing in terms of comfort going with the M70 version over the 60, the xDrive 60, and even look at all this extended leather that you get with this individual interior, real metal grates. I mean, the thing is, yes, I know on paper it seems like a poor value compared to some competition, even Lucid Air and others. But when you're back here and you experience the intangibles, when you feel how quiet the car is, the suspension tuning, all of this extra extended leather and real metal materials, it is probably the closest thing you can get to a Rolls-Royce without it being a Rolls-Royce. And that's where the money is going. It's not going, it also has ventilated, heated, and massage rear seats. It's not going to be the fastest powertrain on the planet. It's not meant to be a drag strip racer or even have the longest range, although they consistently do well over 300 miles in our testing. This is really meant to be a 7 Series as the intention, which is unbelievable high quality, plenty of power to get out of its own way and have some fun with, but yeah, just ultimate luxury as the top priority, and I think they definitely achieved this. Jumping inside the driver's seat, let's come in here. Driver's seat is so cushy, so comfortable. I put my foot on the brake, the driver's door automatically closes. We love that. Really fantastic. You'll see there's a new paddle on the steering wheel. It's a boost paddle. Interestingly, this is actually plastic. It's not a metal paddle shift of any kind, and it's sort of, I don't know, feels kind of cheap in my impression. Not the worst thing in the world though, but if you pull this for 0.8 seconds, it will give you 10 seconds of available boost, which ups the torque almost 50 pound-feet, maybe even a little bit more than that actually. So let's just lower the temperature here. We'll go cooled seats. You'll notice now to get to heating and cooling seats in iDrive 8.5, you just touch the temperature and boom, you have your controls. You no longer have to go into this silly menu that makes no sense. You know, and the climate controls are just totally streamlined. Everything's on one page, so much better than it needs to be. By the way, the phone app as well, technology-wise, they're really starting to figure some of these things out at BMW. What is the password? 7810? Yes. I was just driving the car around, summoning it back and forth. You can drive it around with a remote control like this, so I can hit get started, and you can see the car actually turns on. Can I drive it? Oh, activation attempt inside the car. Please get out. So it knows I'm in here. That's pretty funny. So yes, but you can just, you know, like, you know, summon mode, just drive the car back and forth. I can also control all of the doors from here. So smartphone inside the vehicle. It doesn't want me to do it from in here because you can do it from the system. That's interesting. But you can just boom, open the doors, close the doors, do all the things. Typically, flash the lights, precondition the cabin, check your state of charge. You can even adjust your charge limit in here. The app is really getting pretty good. You can have multiple vehicles as well. And you can share the phone key, which is a great feature. So if someone wants to borrow my car, I can just text them the key. They can use their phone and drive the car. So all of these little features, they're really starting to get, which I absolutely love. And yeah, that's all good stuff. So anyway, enough on the app. This is the phone as a key. I don't even have the key for the car. This is what BMW gave me for their phone. So this is just, yeah, why they needed a Pro one as a phone key, I don't know. But yeah, this is just what they use to activate the car. So let me show you a couple more things. I was talking to the battery guys a little bit about the preconditioning stuff. So let's say we want to go to Munich, back to their home turf. I don't know if anyone's going to drive back. It's 2,000 kilometers back to Munich. It's a long drive, but I wonder if this thing can figure it out from a route planning standpoint. So let's take a look here. Calculating route.
We will no longer be able to make it to our destination with the current remaining range.
Yes, you got to talk faster.
Please select a charging station in the control.
Oh my goodness. Show. Charging stations along the route. Searching. I'm just back in the US editing this video. I have to apologize. In the car settings, BMW actually went in and turned off electric car route planning automatically. The reason being, part of the routes and everything, I think the cars were getting a little bit confused with local charging stations, or they didn't want them being sent to charging stations since they had level 2 charging for this event. So I only found out after I shot this that route planning was turned off. I will say I tried the route planning with software 8.5 and it was really good. It was, planning all the perfect stops, everything I was looking for, except on a long trip like from Lisbon to Munich, it took a really long time for it to figure out the route. So maybe still lots of room for improvement here, but at least it can get you there, and it will show you state of charge on arrival at your destination and at the charging station, and you can customize both of those figures. So you can say, hey, I want to get to the charging station at 5% out of spec style, or I want 20% left in the battery when I get to my destination because I don't know if I'll have charging there. Really nice options and everything here. Just wish they could speed up the time for processing. I don't want to select the charger. I just want you to select the chargers for me. Why are you making me select the chargers around the route? What? Oh, great. So one nice thing you can do, of course, in any BMW is we can actually go, by the way, the new home screen is the nav system. So this is really nice, 15-inch display here, 12 and a bit here. So that's pretty great. But I can come to this one. I can go to, I'm trying to find it because there's a lot of menus here, to vehicle, drive settings, boom. And I can come here to charging menu. And you can see here lots of options. You can set departure time so it will precondition. You can set your maximum AC charging limit. In this case, 22 kilowatt, 32 amp, 3-phase. In the US, we would have 48 amp single split phase. And so here they recommend an 80% daily charging limit. So that's what they want you to charge your car to every day. And then of course you can bump it up to 100, which isn't great for the battery. I wouldn't recommend doing it too much. But this is the one. You can precondition the battery manually like this, and if required. And the thing is, if it is preconditioning, it will now tell you, the battery's warm on this car, so it's not telling us now, but it will tell you how long it's going to take to precondition to get to the 25 degrees Celsius that it's requesting for maximum charging speeds. So that is great. I also think it's interesting they just have one set temperature rather than changing temperatures based on arrival. If you've watched our Taycan content, you know we're looking for this. It also supports plug-in charge with multiple contracts, which is great. So you can have a Electrify America plug-in charge contract, or a ChargePoint plug-in charge contract, or a Workplace plug-in charge contract. They can store 5 separate contracts, a first in the industry, something that hasn't become a problem yet, because all of the vehicles that support plug-in charge at the moment just plug-in charge on EA in the US because they're the only network. But in Europe, there's different tariffs, different plans. We'll start to see this come to the US, so it's nice that this supports it. And then of course the fan loudness, we talk about this in every BMW, just keep it to automatic so it, keep it to unrestricted so it'll charge as fast as possible, which is kind of what we want. Bunch of chassis settings. You can change your regen support. I go through all of this in the standard i7 review, so there's no reason really to talk about it too much. In this one, you should watch that video. This is just an update video on what they've changed. In the system here, there's sport modes and extra settings as well. So you can actually go full DSC off in the M70, which is great for the driving enthusiast to have a little bit of fun. So I'm pleased with that. There's also, drivetrain in sport, everything else in sport. This is how we'll probably drive the car, just to feel some of the chassis improvements here on the twisty roads. And with that said, this crystal shifter still blinds me every time the sun hits it just right. I think I can show you. Look at that. You just go around and you get blinded right here from this and from this. And yeah, that's just not the best use of these materials in the car. I wish they had changed that and come up with some sort of matte finish, but unfortunately they have not. So this is always pretty funny. You just get blinded all the time from that. Anyway, we're at 84% state of charge, still predicting almost 400 kilometers of range. And I was driving with my friend Nick Miles, who's another journalist, and he was ripping it. So I'm surprised it says that much. Shows maybe, okay, some good efficiency. Really nice 3-spoke steering wheel. I really prefer this wheel to the standard 2-spoke. You can get a 3-spoke in the standard car. You just have to spec M Sport. But I think they really worked on the styling here, and it just looks nice. The M70, a little bit nicer. The interior is unbelievable. Alcantara everywhere, high quality materials. I really can't stress to you how nice this interior is. So what do you say we get the cameras loaded up, we go for a drive, and see if this thing is even sportier than the standard car, which I'll talk to you about the differences. I was impressed with how the standard car drove, but I thought it could use a little bit more. And now you join me inside of the i7, sitting in just the most comfortable seat. Actually, there's some great seat settings here I can go through. I'm gonna go with the massage function on. I'm gonna go for a whole body activation massage. We may as well. I'm also just going to adjust the backrest, the upper backrest, to come forward slightly, and then I can actually put the angle of the seat back a little bit. Uber comfortable. The thing is with 7 Series, you just sink into this car. You have an unbelievable straight hood out the front. It feels like a Rolls-Royce Phantom looking out. Truly, it's the most Rolls-Royce-like driving experience without driving a Rolls. I've been lucky enough to drive a few Rolls-Royces, and they are incredible, and this is on the level. It's amazing how good this thing is. So there's a few different drive modes and everything. I'm starting in key up settings, all of the same, you know, creep functions and all of this are identical between the models. So if you're curious about all the low speed calibration, again, watch our full review of the 7 Series. Over 3 degrees of rear steer, just helping out nicely there. And we're just in the personal setting. And oh, it says it wants to start reverse parking. How about no thanks? Couple things to mention. You can see we're on some really crazy terrain at the moment. Why are you trying to do parking? I turned it off. I think I accidentally hit it. Just look for parking stations, parking spots, but I turned that off. Suspension tuning is so important that they haven't messed up this car. Like when we drove the EQS 53 AMG, it was the first thing we tested was, is the car still comfortable? And that's what we're going to attempt to find out first. We need to make sure they haven't ruined the 7 Series comfort. So it's pretty empty roads here in Portugal at the moment. So we're going to go out and drive the car as really user intended. And these roads along the coast are amazing. So just coming up to speed a little bit in personal mode. One thing I need to do, of course, is to turn off of the iconic sounds. So we're going to turn that off. So now we just have the loudest thing is my air-conditioned seat, which is actually louder than you would expect. So let's turn that off. Wow, so quiet. Really cool power plant of some kind over here. And we're just out for a cruise in the 7. So noise performance, probably the quietest electric car I've ever driven. Yeah, I was thinking iX is quiet, but this is quieter than iX without question. Definitely just a unbelievably well-tuned package for this stuff. You know, this is what BMW is good at, building an amazingly quiet, comfortable executive sedan. And they have some cool suspension technology as well in the i7, and the standard car has it, but I didn't really focus on it in my initial review. It wasn't until later how much I really appreciated this. But similar to Rivian, who can do something like this, they have a little bit more control than BMW. They can actually change the effect of the sway bars on the car. So they have an electronic deactivation, basically a sway bar disconnect, if you will. And what it does is allow one wheel to hit a pothole without adjusting the other wheel. So your actual side-to-side head motions in the 7 Series are pretty much completely reduced driving down the road. One wheel falls into a bump, it comes up, the other one's not affected. It reconnects this sway bar as you go into a corner, and these roads are tight, but like here, we have a bunch of bumps on the right side, the left side's straight. I'm feeling nothing. I can hear the right side impact noises of the tires lightly, and it's just dead straight. These roads are amazing. Wow, this is gorgeous. So I've lucky been a chance. I was a passenger for about an hour today in this car before driving it, and Nick was driving, and I was just like, this is the most quiet, most serene, most comfortable car you could ever imagine. And then you start to go, okay, I understand where the money's going. I get the thing. And the BMW was saying there's like such huge demand for i7 right now, like they can't build enough of them. They build them in Dingolfing, but they're like, it's not possible for us to build nearly enough of these cars. So it looks like we need to make a U-turn here because we're at the end of the road of some kind, I guess. So let's just do that. Can we make it? Not quite, but almost. If I had gone a little bit wider, we could have. The shifter down here is easy to use. The power application is amazing for low speed, and it just does the wafting thing perfectly. I mean, truly perfectly. It is a little bit interesting on steering tip-in, how you feel the rear steer kind of counteract, and it does feel like the rear end's slightly loose. And I think it's because BMW is quite aggressive with their rear steer. They put in a lot of rear steer input for a little bit of steering input. And so even though the Mercedes EQS in the AMG form has 9 degrees of rear steer, standard car has 10, and this one only has just over 3. the actual driving impression at low speed like this, you would not know the difference. You only feel the extra rear steer when you put in a lot of steering with the Mercedes. Other than that, the tuning is actually quite comparable between the two. So yeah, we know 7 Series is good. I can tell you as a passenger, they did not compromise on noise performance, which is crucial. They did not compromise on suspension comfort. Yeah, it's slightly harsher than the standard car, especially mostly from the big tires. Let's not crash into anyone or anything as we come for a quick pass. Effortless, silent acceleration. That was the hardest I've pushed the car so far. And 7 Series is so quiet and so removed from the environment. It's actually one of those cars that slightly makes me nauseous. I get car sick in them. And I've noticed this now. This is my 4th or 5th time driving i7, and I just feel slightly queasy in them. And I think it's because it's so removed from any outside element. I also get car sick as a passenger. I feel like I'm a passenger as a driver in this car. So that is a very personal situation. I'm not saying you will get car sick. No one else I've talked to has experienced this. You know, I did a whole review with Anna in the i7 actually, and she was like, no, yeah, totally fine. Everyone else is fine. But my experience is I get car sick. I don't know why. But if I just cruise down the highway, it's not a problem. It's more like on these back roads and stuff. So that's driving the i7 M70 comfortably. The most important thing was, did they ruin the comfort? No. Is it as comfortable as the standard car? No. Will anyone notice the difference? No. You really only notice it if you drive back to back. And I honestly think if you take an i7 M70 and put the standard wheels and tires on this car, I'm on the big wheels with sport tires, then yeah, it would be almost identically comfortable to the standard car. But interestingly, when I go into my modes and select the sport mode function, man, do they really stiffen up the car. The seats come in, and so this range of adjustment just gets so much bigger than the standard car that you're like, okay. So when you spend the extra $50,000, $40,000, whatever that upcharge is to get the M70, you're not really getting the benefit of that unless you drive the car quickly. And it changes the steering. Wow, the steering instantly, I mean, huge difference already. I have so much to tell you about this. But I just have to caution you, and this is the case for driving really any, why is my seatbelt not letting me go? Thank you. This is the case for driving any performance electric car. When you spend the money for an M or an AMG or an M Sport or an AMG 53, not the full top ones, in a combustion world, you get a different experience of a startup noise. You get different shift patterns. You have a different auditory experience. The car feels totally different. In the electric world, there's not much they can do to change the experience of the car when you spend the extra money for the performance one. Especially in the case of a 7 Series or EQS, the car needs to remain as comfortable as the standard car, because who's going to compromise on comfort in an i7? No one. So what you really only get is a lot more power, of course, but this only happens at like 70% throttle or more. And then like the small fine details of chassis tuning that most buyers of this car are not going to experience. So most people who are probably purchasing this car are just doing it because it's the best one. It's the top one. I'm sure you can imagine someone who's like, oh, I want a 7 Series. I want the best one. This is going to be it. Combustion or electric, this is the top. So this is going to be the recommended model. And so that kind of makes sense, but I just have to caution you, if you're shopping for value, you really don't get much of your time driving is going to be identical between the cars. It's only when you push the car hard will you feel the increases of mostly the power. There's no auditory difference or anything like this. Yeah, they pipe in different sounds and the graphics are slightly different, but it doesn't really make a difference. So what we need to do is find some twisty roads. We need to get these guys out of our way, and let's go send it around some corners very quickly, nothing crazy, and then I can make a final verdict as to whether or not this car is worth it over the standard car. So let's do that. Okay, I've now put the car into full maximum attack mode. You know, stability systems backed off, sport mode on, and yeah, the thing is, I don't have too much time to spend with this car, and it's also honestly such a low volume car. I don't want to focus too much time on it, but I can already tell you instantly the steering is so different than the standard car. It has this elastic mounted gear bushing, bearing. I don't actually know how it works. And I was trying to ask BMW, like, how does the steering mount work? The idea is when you're on center, there's no vibrations or feedback that comes through. But when you put in steering input, it then connects the rack metal to metal, and you have a direct connection to what's going on the front wheels. You also have a completely variable steering ratio, so that will change based off speed, drive mode, and other settings. So let's go for a drive quickly. The steering instantly, I can tell you, is fantastic and so much better than the standard car, and honestly feels different than even when in the personal settings. So they must be doing something with the variable ratio based off of speed. Just slightly coast to the wheel. Let's just back off a little bit. Don't know, they have some like sort of business here, but I saw some twisty roads on the map up this way, so yeah, let's just increase speed. There's something really fun about piloting a big car quickly, which is sort of what we're doing in this experiment, at least, and it's just a fun experience. Huge regen off throttle, even at high state of charge. Just squeezing on the power here a little bit. Pretty amazing. Wow, full power. Yeah, it's definitely fast. 6,000 pounds this car, by the way. It's 5,900 and something pounds. 6,000 pound car. And for it to sort of dance like that is quite impressive, actually. Let's go. Big power. Oh my gosh. When you have the sounds off, it's pretty crazy. There's no one behind us. Let's just do a launch control. So I think we might not be able to do a launch control with DSC off. Yeah, we are. Launch control active. That has to be the quietest motors I've ever heard of anything. It's fascinatingly quiet. So coming into the corner, yeah, you can throttle steer it. Hell yes. It's a big girl, but look at this. Coming out. Okay, so they did some magic here. They have done some magic. Seatbelt, stop locking me in. What are you doing? Wow. It's really, really fun, actually. So yeah, it's big, it's heavy, it's rolly and pulley. Even though it does have active roll stabilization, you still kind of push through this. But holy smokes, when you get it on a back road, way spicier than the standard car. So let's actually discuss how the standard i7 drives in a sporting environment. What it does is it has okay power, but what that means is you're hitting 100% throttle application on a twisty road a lot. And so you're just wide open throttle and it's okay, it moves, but it's not, wow, this is fast. It's actually properly powered for a 7 Series, like a luxury car, but I always felt like, just put some more power in it. Electric power is so cheap. So here they've done that. Coming into this corner, big power, really nicely stable. But it still does the thing of the standard car where if you have a big G load in a corner, you mat the throttle, it limits the power until you come straight on the wheel. So they have torque limitation by steering angle, which I thought they were going to get rid of that in the M70. I just felt it there around that corner. So that's a little bit annoying. But either way, yeah, you could see in those back corners when we had a little bit of fun maneuvering it, really awesome. So the use case of this is not so much, but let's do a brake test really quick. So we'll do, I don't know, 60 miles an hour, 100 kilometers an hour, roughly, full brakes. Let's do it. Oh. You can tell there's a lot of deflection at stop because the whole car moved a lot there when we came to a stop. Hazards came on because of European tuning, but the brake pedal is amazing. Driving this car, you can almost not tell the difference between regen and friction brake blending. It's just a fantastic blend point between the two, and I couldn't be more thrilled with how this car is set up from you know, the compromises needed to keep it comfortable, and it's still heavy and it's got a lot of equipment, but also be quite sporty on some of these things. And it drives like a car that weighs maybe 4,000 pounds, not 6,000 pounds. It's pretty amazing. Let's just do a quick U-turn here. Yeah, buddy, she's moving. It does have some traction control still. If you get a lot of wheel spin like we did there, it cut the power so that you don't have an abuse shock load. If you go from a low mu to a high mu surface, you don't want to snap a drive axle, of course, so there's still some torque limitation based off of wheel spin, even though ESP is full off. Coming down here, I'm going to pull the boost paddle. We get a lot more power when you pull the boost paddle. Wow, big speed on the way in, leaning on the brakes now. You can do some stupid things in this car. You could really put the speed on in this car. I do want to test the tuning really quick if we go ESC Sport rather than off. So driving dynamics, Sport Plus. So it's basically the tuning of, if you're an old school BMW guy, dynamic traction control. So coming into the corner, yeah. Still, no matter what, if you're wide open throttle and you have steering angle on, they limit the power. I wonder if it's to prevent torque steer preemptively or what they're exactly doing. But wow, when you drive this thing hard, yeah, it leans, you got to get all the weight over, and then you just mat the throttle and poof, you're off like a bullet. It's pretty amazing. Really fun. Way spicier on a back road than the i760. So my recommendation for you viewers, if you're an enthusiast like I am that wants the most comfort, the most tech, the most, theater experience, the quietest car. I want all of those things, but I also want to be sporty. But I am also, not wanting to lose a bunch of money on depreciation. Then my recommendation to you is buy one of these used in like 4 years. No original owner is going to drive this car that hard. And they're going to depreciate, as you know, all 7 Series do. On the brakes, stuff it into a corner, leaned over. Yes! Yeah, even with ESC and Sport mode, it lets you have throttle on oversteer. If you go matted throttle, that's where you get that big limitation, but if you just squeeze on the power, you can torque this thing over and rip it hard. Let's go to the right here. It looks like a nice road. And big power. Yeah, I can hear still ESP clicking away a lot in this ESC Sport mode. This is epic, this road. Wow! The motors are so dead quiet. Anyway, I only have another few minutes with the car. I have to bring it back. But yeah, so the synopsis of the story here, for those of you wondering, is you're not giving up a meaningful amount of luxury or comfort. Actually, in fact, you're getting more luxury, more leathers, BMW individual options, all that stuff. But you're not giving up much comfort going with the M70. But what you are gaining is this whole new character of, yeah, the standard car was fast and competent on a back road. Look at this thing, you just squeeze the throttle and rotates the rear coming out of corners, and you can position it exactly where you want. It's amazing. Even with this ESP system still half on, I really like the tuning. That's probably how I drive it most of the time, is ESP Sport mode, Sport Plus, and then everything else dialed up to max on a back road. So you're giving up nothing. You're gaining a whole bunch of performance. You're gaining some exclusivity, and of course the acceleration power is nice, but I don't think that's worth buying the car for. It's like, the straight line power is quite good, but it's also not competitive in any way. Lucid Air Sapphire is more expensive, yeah, but that has 1,200 or 1,100 horsepower. Tesla Model S Plaid is almost $100,000 less than this car and has twice the power. A little bit under twice the power. So you're not buying this car for straight line acceleration. It's fine, it's enough to impress your friends, but it's not crazy fast. What you are getting with this car though is just a new breadth of capability, a wider breadth of capability, similar comfort, more sportiness, exclusivity, styling, option extra, and a much higher price tag. It's almost, I think BMW just made it expensive because they could. $170,000 starting price, roughly. We'll see what that happens and what the take rate is on something like this, but I think they're going to be fairly exclusive. Just trying to figure out if we should turn around here. Guess not. They're going to be fairly exclusive, and you won't see too many of them out on the road. They're definitely going to be a deal, a buy in the used market, no question. And I just can't get over these roads, and the fact that I'm driving a 7 Series this quickly around some of these amazing corners and amazing views. You would never expect a 7 Series to dance like this, especially when you read the 5,900 pound figure. It's amazing what this car can do. So props to the BMW engineers for truly engineering something, I would say, magical. It really shrinks its size, but also maintaining extreme comfort when needed. Great driver assistance system. Whoever buys this car is going to love it. Truly love it. But again, I'm not really here to drive the 7 Series. I'm here to drive the i5, which I am about to do. So stay tuned for that video. There's an embargo on that one. This one I can share immediately, so it'll be some weeks, I think maybe October, until I can share the i5 video. This one will go up immediately. But I can't thank you enough for watching. Can't thank BMW enough for having me, for allowing me to drive this car here during this program in Portugal. And yeah, when these come up on the used market, I'm gonna be ready. Certified pre-owned 2-year-old car, sign me up, baby. This is something truly special. Really nice car. They should fine-tune the auto door function though. The motors, the doors, that's kind of a weak point. See you in another one soon. Bye-bye.